Okay, so before we start, I didn't buy all these books at one shot in one specific day. I've kind of been collecting them as a little piece here, a little piece there. I also want to add that I don't buy new books very often because I live in a third world country and they are extremely expensive. If you buy a new book, it can sometimes run you up to like 600 Rand, which is quite a lot of money in South Africa. However, I do love print media or physical media, and since physical books are currently dying, I do try to buy them when I can, just as a means to support them and hopefully do my small tiny little piece that might actually do nothing in keeping them afloat. Starting off on number 1, we've got Classic Tales of Horror by Edgar Allan Poe. My favorite genre to read is obviously horror. However, I usually sprinkle in a few classics between horror books just to make sure that I'm not a complete idiot and that I'm actually becoming somewhat well read. However, I haven't explored too many books in the classic horror genre, and so I thought who better to start with than the literal godfather of horror, Edgar Allan Poe. So this is just a collection of a few of his horror short stories. It's got about 21 of his stories, and whenever I feel the need, I just go and read one of them. It's not like I'm setting a specific time. If I want to read some Poe, I'll go and read some Poe. I've read a couple of them, my favorite so far being The Black Cat and The Cask of Amontillado. In the same vein, The Call of Cthulhu and Other Stories by H.P Lovecraft. Still in the vein of classic horror literature. His stuff is a little bit more otherworldly. I haven't read any of these yet, however, I'm going to get to them. We've got 11 of his short stories in here. And I mean, Cthulhu is really well known, I think a large part due to South Park, but who doesn't want to read the origins of Cthulhu? Keeping with the classic horror literature, I've also got Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. My girlfriend and I recently watched the new Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein and we really enjoyed it. I know it's not very close to the source material, but it did encourage or inspire me to want to go and read the original Frankenstein. I think the story is pretty well known at this point, but I mean, Frankenstein is about a scientist named Frankenstein who goes and collects various body parts and rebuilds, recreates, reanimates, brings back to life all these various body parts and creates a monster. And then moving a little bit away from classic horror literature, we've got My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. I know that he is quite charismatic and is quite humorous, so I picked this one up because one of my favorite books of all time is The Exorcist, and also I just love possession movies, so I figured this would be a pretty good start considering it's about an exorcism. And I also really like the cover art. I don't know if you can see, it's got this whole VHS tape 80s vibe going on with it, and so I think it's just going to be a ton of fun. I think it's going to be funny, I think it's going to be heartfelt, it's going to be dripping in 80s nostalgia, and I think at times it's going to be kind of creepy, so I'm looking forward to this one. It's about two high school girls who are best friends, and when they return from one summer, one of them is acting very strangely, and it turns out that she's got a demon inside of her, and so it's a test of their friendship. Will their friendship be enough to overcome the demon and the devil inside of her? This is usually how I get most of my books. Like I said, it's just more affordable, and also I mean, there is so many lovely books that are just floating around in charity shops or secondhand bookstores, and they deserve to be read. Stephen King's Night Shift. So I'm currently on the journey to read and collect all of Stephen King's novels, and I was missing his first collection of short stories. I'm also currently reading Salem's Lot, and one of the stories inside of Night Shift is Jerusalem's Lot. And from what I see on Reddit and the online community, apparently Jerusalem's Lot is a really good short story, and I think once I finish Salem's Lot, it would be nice to be in that world one more time. Phil Rickman, December. You'll notice that during this book haul, I tried to buy a wide variety of horror authors just because I've kind of read 5 Stephen King novels back to back, and while they are all amazing, I am getting a little bit of fatigue with Stephen King and his very specific voice. So I was looking for horror novels that are outside of King so that I can broaden my horizons and give him a little bit of a break, because I think it would be unfair for me to criticize his work when I'm feeling a little bit of fatigue towards him. It won't be a true reflection of how I feel about that specific book. And so I went and I found Phil Rickman. So Phil Rickman's December is a book about a band who go to a historically dark rundown abbey. If you don't know what an abbey is basically just a religious complex with a church. They record their newest album in this abandoned abbey. And while they are there, shit starts to go down. I don't know what goes down yet because I haven't read the book yet, but it seems like some paranormal, gruesome death shit. They manage to escape and get away, and they agree as a group that they will never ever release the album that they recorded in the abbey. And then a few years later, somehow the album gets released and all hell breaks loose once again. And so now in their older age, they have to go back to this abandoned abbey and fix whatever they broke. Anyway, excited to read that one. It's also quite a chunker. Next up, we have The Godsend by Bernard Taylor. And this one's not in the best quality. For an example, it's kind of falling apart. Anyway, this one looks like it's going to be quite a short and quick read, and it's kind of giving me The Omen. So what it's about, this family, they have children, and one of their children passes away, and so they found this abandoned child, and they say it's a godsend because they just lost a child and now they've found another child, and they end up adopting her. But once they adopt her, all paranormal hell starts to break loose, and the other children that are remaining in their family are no longer safe, and so they are going to have to defeat the evil entity that is this little girl that they've now adopted. The premise sounds very interesting. I'm quite a big fan of The Omen or stories like Rosemary's Baby, which seem to be kind of in this vein, so I think it will be quite a nice fun little read. Agatha Christie's Mrs. Maginty's Dead. I have never read anything from Agatha Christie. I am very familiar with the author, and I found this book out in the wild, and I figured, let me dip my toes into Christie. So again, it's quite a short read. It's about a landlady who is hit in the back of the head and she unfortunately passes away, and they all presume that the killer is the tenant that she's currently renting to. However, there's something fishy, something smells off about that, and it's basically a classic whodunit. However, what I've heard is that this one features quite a bit more humor than other Agatha Christie works. Then, next up, we've got Jurassic Park 1 and Jurassic Park 2 by Michael Crichton. So I think Jurassic Park is pretty well known today thanks to Steven Spielberg. However, what I have heard is that the Jurassic Park books are a lot darker and more gruesome than the movie counterpart. You should all know the story, but if you don't, it's basically a group of scientists regrow or rebirth or recreate dinosaurs, and they turn it into a theme park. And of course, the dinosaurs escape and they go around chomping people, and basically becomes a story of survival. Can they escape the dinosaurs? And the last pickup is Richard Lehman's All Hallows Eve. I'm going to be completely honest with you, the only reason I picked this book up is because I saw All Hallows Eve, and it made me think back to the first ever little Terrifier movie, which was also titled All Hallows Eve, which was a collection of short stories, and it featured Art the Clown for the first time. And so I saw All Hallows Eve and I thought, ooh, okay, that could be quite good, and I picked it up. All Hallows Eve is about a small town, and in this small town there is a gruesome murder in this one house, and then a few years later on Halloween Day, or All Hallows Eve, I think that's the day before Halloween, people in this town receive an invitation to come to a Halloween party in the murder house. And once they get to the house, it essentially becomes an 80s slasher with tons of gruesome murder and unnecessary nudity. I think it's going to be a fun, pulpy, gruesome read. Those are all the books I've picked up in the last 6 months. I cannot wait to read them. Let me know down in the comments below if you've read any of these books, or if you want to read any of these books. And if you have read them, let me know what you think about them. Thank you so much for watching, and why don't you click on one of the videos on the screen right now? YouTube really thinks you'll enjoy them. See you soon.